As of last week, we were like with bated breath, like, is Michelle going to choose the safety guy or the passion guy, right? That was like our whole thing. And now we're kind of coming out of it saying, like, I don't even know if we had the right question. Like, because I think that that was a question that was manufactured for us by production.
Hi, we are Julie and Kelly, and we are here to find love. A little bit about us. We are two dating coaches going deep on frothy shit, in particular, The Bachelorette. So we're just going to be using the show as a way to talk about contemporary dating themes. And just a reminder, we don't know any of these contestants. We're aware the show is highly produced and edited. We just want to inspire some conversations about dating and love. So join us and let's get started with this week's recap of Michelle Young's Bachelorette finale. And after the final rose, it was a lot. Kelly, what did you think about the finale last night?
A lot of people thought Nayte would be the winner, but didn't want him to be the winner. I think that was the case. You know, when I was watching reactions that people were having, you know, on social media, a lot of people expected Michelle to pick Nayte, but also were very concerned about her picking Nayte, and that is exactly how it played out. So in that sense, you know, people kind of guessed this right, including us. Me and Julie, you know, had a Bachelor League going, and we both guessed that Nayte would be the winner. So this is, in some senses, predictable, and yet at the same time, something about how it all played out at the end and after the final rose, I did walk away feeling a little bit like I had gained new information about this couple, and like something, it didn't quite turn out how I thought it would. They seem really happy and really content and close, and there was something about how they were specifically at the after the final rose that sold me on their relationship in a way that the entire season of filming did not. So I guess before we get into all of that, what I will say is maybe we should start on Brandon, because, you know, we don't have too much to say about Brandon, but we should talk about him because it was so sad.
I love Brandon, and my love for him has just persisted throughout the entire season. It's been solidified in the finale. It was so lovely that he got along well with her family, but it's like what you were saying, Kelly, a perfect on paper match doesn't always translate to like, you're my person. And he's so loving. He's gonna make some person very happy in the future. Unfortunately, it's just not Michelle.
He meant it when he said he wanted to spend every day with her for the rest of his life. He meant it. He was
when he
not
said she was the most beautiful girl, he meant it.
You could see it, man. You could really tell. I thought that that was one of the more genuine breakups I've seen on the show. I mean, there's been lots of very genuine breakups, but I think that, like, as opposed to people are like sad to be rejected, sad about a relationship ending, I think Brandon really had a vision for his future that involved Michelle, and that is what crumbled all at once, like, in that moment. And like, to me, that felt, I was like, whoa, that was really real to him. Like, you could tell that was really real to him. So I was really sad for him. And to your point, Julie, like, he was also like so sweet about it. Like, he was, even after Michelle dumped him, he was like
comforting her. He was
like, it's okay, it's still gonna be the happiest day of your life. I was like, oh my god, Brandon, that's too sweet. Like, it was like, I was even like very moved by how empathetic and compassionate he was able to be, even in the face of like extreme heartbreak. And like, I feel like that is something like I aspire to be that way. I think all of us should aspire to be able to be loving and tender and compassionate even in the face of pain and hurt. I mean, there's plenty of people who will get rejected and be in that kind of situation and then just like kind of run off in their own corner, or like lash out, or like you know, minimize the relationship afterwards, or like spiral into self-doubt. But Brandon didn't do any of that. He was just like, that was hurtful, I'm hurt, and also like, I care about Michelle and I want her to be happy. And like, that's like, that love was real, because you know it was real because it wasn't conditional on her loving him back. once she was like, I'm choosing someone else, it didn't mean that he didn't still love her. And that's how you can tell love is real. It doesn't require reciprocity. It's just there for you to give. And so kudos to Brandon. I was really inspired by his love story. I was really inspired by the way he loves. I want to love more like him. That's kind of, that was one of the most authentic expressions of love I felt like we've seen on this show in a very long time. So just hats off to Brandon.
Dude, I agree. I think he was the paradigm of like the perfect boyfriend, the perfect ex. Like, you can't look for perfection in these moments, but he was so expansive in the way that he was able to fill out these roles for her, knowing that, like, at the end of the day, like you were saying, just because she didn't choose him doesn't mean that she's now a bitch, a villain, like this evil person that he has to like now attack. It's just her choosing someone else that she believes is best for her. And I think Brandon really metabolized that, and that showed up in the way that he reacted. I am just so happy that like he looks like he's moved on a little bit from it, and we can just rest assured that we're gonna see this man on Bachelor in Paradise, and it's gonna be lit for him. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be so excited. Good for him. Yeah, he's gonna be the king of the beach. Everyone's is gonna be like on the beach for him, so he gets a happy ending.
Yeah. I'm sure he will get his happy ending, and we are going to be 100%. So excited to see it. So then moving on to Nayte's proposal and, you know, Michelle and Nayte's engagement. I mean, I gave my first reaction. I mean, Julie, how did you feel when you saw that it all play out?
I totally agree with what you said about, like, I had a lot of my hesitations about Nayte in the way that they framed him to be this, like, playboy, casual, laid-back guy that had never been in love, that was approaching it for the first time with Michelle. Editing really took us on a roller coaster ride. The reason why we were able to like actually see their love story like in its full self was because it was live. They couldn't chop it up. They couldn't like do anything but show Michelle and Nayte on the stage along with their parents, and like for their parents to like approve the relationship, that's such a huge stamp of like approval. It's like if the parents have validated it, if he's moving to Minnesota to be with her, it shows that like their connection was so strong. And we didn't see that because what we saw was like all of these little clips of Nayte being like, I don't know what love is. I've never been in love. Let's kind of like take things day by day. It just makes it seem like it doesn't match with Michelle, who is very like composed. And I think she has a plan for her future. So that's what I noticed. I was really not into him until after the final rose.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I think that, you know, and for people who have been watching our recaps this whole season, you all know that we've been skeptical about Nayte from the beginning, right? From the very first episode.
Him, but we were just I don't know.
Yeah, we've been skeptical up until our last week's recap. We were like, I don't think Nayte is the right guy for her. And honestly, I swear, I felt that way. Even as he was proposing, I was feeling that way. I was like, I just don't know if this is the right choice. But then it was in the after the final rose when they were sitting there on that couch, all of a sudden their energy was different. It wasn't this like nervous butterfly energy. They felt very seated in their relationship, stable and secure. I felt like so much depth between them, as if there were like inside jokes that we didn't get as the audience. They were like laughing at things, and I was like, what are they laughing at? And it's like they kind of seemed to have this whole like world of their own that they were in, and that to me signaled like, oh, there's a lot that we missed. Like, there's a lot that we never got to see, either because it wasn't shown in the edit or because it happened after the show concluded and their relationship has progressed so much since the end of filming. But there is a lot that we didn't actually get to see. But when they showed up on that couch in the after the final rose, you could tell it's a world of difference from what we were seeing in the actual season. And so whether it's because production didn't want us to believe in their story, they were trying to fool us, they were trying to create this like drama, or it's just because, you know, a lot of it happened after filming ended. Like, I can't quite tell exactly what is going on here, but the couple I saw on the couch there in the after the final rose, I was like, I buy this. Like, I kind of believe it. I think that they seem happy. I think that they seem connected. Nayte's energy seems totally different from how he was on the show. And again, I don't know if that's just the environment. I don't know if it's the production, but I I was eating it up. I felt like I was like, oh, okay, Michelle, you went with your heart, and like, I think you ended up in the right place. I think you ended up right where you were supposed to be, you know?
I totally feel that. And it's like Nate's energy on the couch on after the final rose was similar to his energy throughout, like, I think the last few episodes. But we just, like, didn't see it in its fullness. Like, because Nate was kind of just like, you know, I thought that him comparing her to, like, a song was pretty beautiful. But, like, in production, I think they could have chopped it up where it sounds like she sounds like that song that you don't really like, and then you start to like it over time. I really do think production played a huge hand in us not really looking for their love story and us rooting for Brandon. And I think that makes it so problematic because now they're going to go on this media tour. They're really going to be looking out for, like, consistencies and inconsistencies of Michelle and Nate's relationship. And I think it just gives it all of this stress that it doesn't need, especially since the relationship, it's very strong, but it's still fragile. Like, I can't imagine if my relationship is, like, up to the court of public opinion. Like, if people are going to be judging it and, like, looking at our body language and little moments to see if he loves me the way that I love him, it just adds all of this complexity that just didn't have to exist.
Yeah, I mean, that's so true. I mean, on the one hand, I will say, like, they did sign up to be on The Bachelorette. They both signed up to, like, have their love story publicized and, like, you know, watched and unfold in the public eye. So on the one hand, like, they shouldn't, I bet their relationship, all of the relationships that have ever been on the Bachelor franchise would probably have been a lot healthier if they were not on the Bachelor franchise. But everyone opted into being on this show, and so it has, I think we can't ignore the fact that being on the show affects how these relationships, like, whether or not they can sustain themselves and last. Like, some of the relationships that petered out, maybe they wouldn't have petered out if they hadn't been on a show and on a set. I think of, like, Katie and Greg. I think that relationship would have been fine if they weren't in this really extreme process and environment. There's plenty of relationships like that on this show that I think the environment is part of what kind of pushed them off the edge. And I don't know if that's, you know, it's hard to say. It's hard to say, like, if you took two people, put them in a totally different situation, would it have worked out the same way? It's so hard to predict, but I think we can't ignore the fact that being on this show has such a huge impact on both the relationship itself and the people who are in those relationships, but also how we perceive them, right? And how we are reading what's going on and how we are reading what's a good relationship and not a good relationship. And Julie and I always say this, like, we only know what we're being shown by the producers. We only know what we're seeing in, you know, this, like, 2-hour recap of, like, a 2-month, you know, engagement or experience. And so, like, this is such a great example, this Nate and Michelle thing. I think that once we saw them on the couch, I think this is such a good example of, like, ooh, we really didn't know anything, and, like, none of us really know anything about what's going on behind the scenes with these people and with these contestants. So, you know, I feel for them, and I hope that they're able to push through the kind of, like, judgment that's going to be on them and the kind of close eye that they're going to be under in these coming weeks. Like, I'm hoping that they'll be able to push through that, and it seems like they're both up to the task. It seems like Nate understands the assignment, like, he understands what people's criticism or kind of skepticism around him is, and he is like, okay, let me show y'all, like, I shouldn't have to prove myself to you, but because I'm on TV, like, let me just show y'all and, like, make it super clear how much I'm in love with this woman. And you know what, like, whatever, like, if all of this skepticism, if the result is that Nate is like, okay, I'm gonna just, like, lay it on my woman so you can all see, that's not a bad result, right? It's not a bad result for Nate to just be like, okay, like, let me show you, because their relationship is healthy. I mean, from what we're seeing, right? If their relationship really is healthy, then showing the world how healthy it is hopefully will be easy enough on them, right?
Yeah, and I do think that's, like, a good point that you raised, because it's, like, it's such a unique experience it's literally them against the world at that point, because they have to be the ones that rely and lean on each other as they're going on this media tour. I just am remiss to think about the fact that, like, as I was watching the show, it just does not care about true love. It just cares a lot about drama. Like, they
Oh,
were
yeah.
just really propping Brandon up to be the still-eyed, heartbroken sweetheart, and Nayte as, like, this playboy that was kind of getting Michelle, and not really it wasn't being reciprocated on that deep level. And it wasn't until after the final rose that, like, that changed for me. And I just hate that, like, the show really plays of that narrative. Like, I was pretty like annoyed when I was watching it, because I was like, why didn't we see this? Why couldn't we see their love story without this layer of confusion? Because they want us to, like, root for the runner-up, you know?
Right, definitely. I mean, the show, it needs a narrative arc, right? I mean, that's part of the point. Like, they need to create some kind of tension so that people keep watching to see what happens. I mean, as of last week, we were like with bated breath, like, is Michelle going to choose the safety guy or the passion guy, right? That was like our whole thing. And now we're kind of coming out of it saying, like, I don't even know if we had the right question. Like, because I think that was a question that was manufactured for us by production, and successfully so. I mean, again, like, at least it created a conversation around, you know, these dynamics in relationships, which are true dynamics, whether or not it was true for Nayte and Michelle, and whether or not, I don't think it seems like maybe it wasn't actually a true dynamic that was representative of Nayte and Michelle's relationship, but it did create just like an opportunity to have these conversations. And now it's kind of, to your point, now it's going to be up to these contestants to show, like, hey, like, you know, the conversations that you all have been having about our relationship are not representative of our actual relationship, right? And, like, that is going to be their task. And, you know, it's tough. Like, reality TV is a weird thing, because it's like, it's reality, but it's like a warped reality, right? It's like reality twisted into something that can be watched entertainingly. But, you know, in real life, like, relationships are interesting. And, like, Julia, you know, we always say this, like, we think that this show would be interesting if they just showed relationships raw without all of the kind of, you know, manipulation. I think the show would be interesting if they did that. And also, a healthy relationship is kind of boring. I mean, it's like, that's the truth of it, right? A healthy relationship is not that interesting, because they're just like, this is working, we're happy, we're gonna move on with our lives, right? Like, that's what a healthy relationship looks like. And, you know, I think people think a healthy relationship is like, oh my God, we can overcome all of these obstacles, and, like, it's so romantic, and there's a big proposal at the end. But truly, a healthy relationship most days is just like doing the dishes and, like, hugging each other from behind and then moseying on with your workday. Like, that's what real healthy love looks like. And I think that's not interesting, and that's why it doesn't get shown on this show. And I think maybe that's why we missed a lot of the true Nayte and Michelle story. Like, I think it's hard to analyze this show without remembering the context of what we're all signing up for, which is to watch a dramatized version of what real life looks like. To the point of everything that you and I have been talking about for the last couple of weeks, this question about, like, you know, safety and passion. Like, I think that's still a worthwhile conversation, because I think in many ways, if what everyone observed about Nayte on the show, let's say it was true, let's say that it was true that, you know, Nayte was, you know, not committed right away, and it took a while for him to get there. Let's say that was the truth of what was going on for their relationship. You know, in some ways, like, this is like almost like an unexpected love story, because Nayte had as many red flags as I think everyone called out about Nayte. He had all of these red flags, and then in the end, it ended up being that he was able to work through them. We always say that any relationship can be worked through, right? Any issues in a relationship can be worked through. And it seems like Michelle and Nayte, or I guess even really just Michelle, took this kind of leap of faith with Nayte and said, like, I see that there are going to be challenges for us to work through, but I believe that we can do it. And Nayte was like, I believe we can do it too. And the two of them were like, okay, let's just try it. And they tried it, and then it worked. Like, it just so happened to work. And that is in its own way, like, something that is, you know, it's shocking, right? Because people often, they're like, I see a red flag and we have to, like, shut this whole thing down. We have to, like, shut this whole relationship down. There's no way that it can work. And the truth is, it's not true. Like, sometimes we see there's a challenge in a relationship. It is a red flag, but it can be worked through with awareness and intention if both people are willing to do it. So in some ways, like, maybe that's kind of what happened with Nayte and Michelle. maybe there were issues that they worked through that we never got to see, you know?
Right. And I also think, too, that, like, a lot of people think that when you see a red flag, you just have to shut down the relationship, like you said. But don't we all have some baggage? Don't we all walk into relationships with our own red flags, our own communication problems, and our own conflict styles? Like, we don't walk into this, like, fully formed. We have to work on it with our partner. And I think the relationship is really representative of, like, okay, what happens when you just, like, don't bank on the love story of, like, you know, a Brandon and Michelle where everything seems like it lines up, but you have someone with you that you really love. How do we resolve this together? I think that's a much more meaningful relationship than being with someone where everything can, like, dovetail a little neatly, but maybe you're just not fully feeling it. Michelle got to make the choice that she wanted to make, independent of what her family wanted, what the show wanted, what production was showing, because it's okay. Like, one of our commenters had a really good point that she had a Brandon and Nayte in her life. And she was like, I could have chosen the Brandon. I could have chosen the safe option. But then I always would have been thinking, what if? With my Nayte. Like, what if I'd never explored that? I would always be curious about it and questioning it. So it's like, when we're confronted of these choices between, like, who do we want to love? Just choose the choice that you want to make for yourself and see it all the way through. Regardless of what anyone thinks. It's completely up to you and what you want. Just follow your intuition.
I think that might be the moral of this story, right? This question of, you know, safety or passion. You know, I've been in a situation where I had to pick between a guy who is my Brandon and a guy who is my Nayte. I picked my Brandon, and I'm fucking happy for 5 years later. Like, I'm in a fucking awesome relationship.
Love you guys together.
And so, but, like, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, I think, like, either choice would have been the right choice for Michelle, as long as she was, like, authentically following her heart. And that's what she did. At the end of the day, she followed her heart. And even if the relationship with Nayte doesn't work out, and we know that a lot of these Bachelor couples, like, they don't tend to work out, but even if they don't work out, even if they break up, like, she followed her heart. She knew there was one person that she couldn't live without. I think that's how she put it. And I'm glad that she moved forward with that decision. I'm glad that they got to the other side and realized that even though there were maybe some challenges, some issues that needed to be worked through, some kinks, some baggage, they were, it seems like they've been able to do it. They've been able to work through it. I mean, Nayte looks like a new man there after the final rose.
He was so
He's
adorable.
spouting love stories. He's got these romantic metaphors. He's like Mr. Commitment over there. And, like, that's not what we saw on the show, whether because of production or because things have changed for him. Like, I don't know if it's one or the other, but it looks like they're thriving. It looks like Michelle got exactly what she wanted, and looks like Nayte is really exactly that partner that, you know, I think all of us want and that Michelle wanted. And so kudos to them. I'm happy. We're rooting for them. I think I can say that for the both of us, right? I think we just want, I think this is...
I think outside of, like, Rachel, Lindsay, and Brian, they're, like, now up there, like, with my favorite couples that have come from this franchise, because I think they faced a really similar dynamic where, like, in Rachel's season, she had to, like, fight against the perception that she was with her runner-up, like, she didn't get the one that she really wanted. It's not like that totally happened with Michelle and Nayte, but Nayte was kind of, like, given the same editing that Brian was given. Like, Brian was a slick playboy from Miami, and Nayte seemed like this Casanova that wasn't ready for commitment, and they, I think, are one of the only couples that have proven that, like, this show does work, but not because of the show. It was in spite of the show.
All y'all who are watching, I mean, let us know, what do you think? What did you think about the end of this season? What do you think about Michelle's choice of picking Nayte over Brandon, and what do you all think about Michelle and Nayte's relationship as we saw them on the After the Final Rose? Have your opinions of Nayte changed? Have your opinions of their relationship changed? What are you thinking now that we are heading into, I guess, Michelle and Nayte's media tour? What are your thoughts on this relationship? Let us know down below, and as always, remember, with the comments, enter with a spirit of generosity. We're not here to judge these people individually. We don't know them. You all don't know them. We don't know them. Like, let's come in and just have a conversation about what we're seeing, what we're observing, and we are excited to hear your thoughts. I'm very, very curious to see how people are going to respond to this finale.
Me too, because it was heated.
Yeah,
There were
for sure.
like two really divided camps.
It's been a heated season. I mean, people have really had strong opinions on the Brandon versus Nayte thing. So,
Thing about us is we've always been Team Michelle, and
yeah,
Michelle,
exactly.
like we predicted at the very beginning of the season, she has her head about her, and regardless
She does.
and it's like her choice is her choice, whatever choice she wants to make, even if Nayte does turn out to be this fuckboy, she needed to choose that to see that through, and no one should judge her for making that decision for herself.
Yeah.
Just like we all will be faced with this in our life, a Brandon or a Nayte, and we just have to go down the road we need to go on. We just have to go
down. Exactly.
Let us know what your final reflections are on Michelle's love story. We will be back in a week, I guess. This is just kind of just intense. There's so much Bachelor content. I'm overwhelmed.
Goes on forever. It's like you
Dude,
blink
I'm
and
tired.
it's like, gosh.
I'm exhausted.
It's like so funny. Like we're huge Bachelor fans, but it's like, oh my gosh.
Not like
it's
this.
Like, it's like too much of a good thing. It's like eating cake for dinner every night for
Every night.
2 years. Like,
Dude, I'm going to be watching Clayton's season in the fetal position. I'm not going to be able to do it any other way.
we'll be watching the season, of course. We'll be recapping it. I will say I'm excited because I do like
It's going to be
drama.
messy.
And we do like mess here.
We love mess.
So we
just
love
love
mess. So, I am excited about the mess.
I do think, too, that Clayton has no idea what he's walking into. He has no clue, and that makes it a little bit exciting because he's not going to make the best decisions. He's not. But this would drive so many conversations around, like, dating and, like, when your emotions get into play. Like, it's going to be so many different conversations that we've had for Michelle's season. So join us as we watch it.
Let us know. Leave us some comments down below what you thought about the end of Michelle's season, what you thought about the previews for Clayton's season. Are you excited for Clayton's season? Leave some thoughts, some comments. And we will be off next week because there's no Bachelor episode, but we will be back on the first week of January to recap the first episode of Clayton's season. We will be here talking about this guy. So if you aren't subscribed already, please do hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you get the notifications, and we will see you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.